So rumours regarding the 15-inch MacBook Air's been all over the place, but we do finally have a report that does make sense, at least for the most part, and so let's delve into it. So for those wondering, 15-inch MacBook Air rumours have mostly pointed towards a March or April release, but with the M2 chip inside, and that's what was confusing because why would Apple release this with the older M2 chip when of course the 13-inch was going to get the M3 chip in just a few months? And so yeah, releasing both these MacBooks at the same time with the same chips made the most sense, and that's thankfully what 95Mac and Mark Gurman now tells us in their new reports. So Mark Gurman was pretty vague in his report, but basically said there was a chance the 13-inch and the 15-inch MacBook Airs launched together at dub with the brand new M3 chip. And this would make sense because now that Apple controls the chip upgrades with Apple Silicon, they can give us annual upgrades for their most popular Macs. And so we saw M2 at last year's dub event, and so releasing M3 for this year does make sense. However, as I said, Gurman was pretty vague in his reports. He always does this, and in fact he does say there is a chance the 15-inch MacBook Air does still release with the M2 chip, and the bigger size might sway consumers even with the older chip inside. But that still did not make a ton of sense, and thankfully 95Mac now does give us more concrete details that Apple does plan to give both sizes the M3 upgrades. So basically they've heard from their sources there is a 13-inch and a 15-inch MacBook Air already in the works with the M3 SoC, and the code names for these Macs are J513 and J515. And for those wondering, these codenames do confirm once again we're getting the M3 insides, since Macs with J3XX have the M1 chip insides, J4XX have the M2 chip insides, and so these J5 Macs should have M3. And that confirmation first of all is fantastic news because, as I said, launching both these models with the brand new M3 chip definitely makes the most sense, and 95Mac does further clarify the base versions of these Macs are going to have an 8-core CPU like the M1 and the M2 Macs. So expect the same split of 4 performance and 4 efficiency cores in these Macs. Now Quo actually did tell us the 15-inch could get the M2 Pro chip, which would not make a ton of sense because this machine would not have a fan, so of course the M2 Pro would have major thermal constraints, and thankfully 95Mac does tell us that's not in the works, nor the M2 or the M3 Pro chips are gonna be in these new MacBook Airs. Now this 95Mac report does not tell us when to expect these Macs, and while Ross Young does seem pretty sure about an April release, I still find that a little hard to believe because I don't think Apple would announce M3 and of course the brand new 15-inch size via press release, because these are pretty big upgrades, they do warrant stage time, and so a dub announcement for these Macs like Gurman hinted, that would make the most sense. And do remember that Apple gave us the yellow iPhone 14s via press release, and those are usually revealed at the spring event, and so that could be the big sign we're not seeing a spring event, and Apple's going to be waiting till dub. Then again, you could argue the headset's going to be the main focus at dub, and so maybe Ross Young's right about an April release. I guess we'll see, but I still do think a WWDC release makes the most sense. Either way guys, I'm just excited we're finally getting the 15-inch MacBook Air because I've wanted that for years. I've been waiting for a big-sized MacBook that offered the benefits of the 16-inch at a much lower price. And actually regarding price, there is some bad news because initially I and many of us were predicting the 15-inch would potentially replace the base 13-inch MacBook Pro because that's a pretty irrelevant Mac, and so replacing that price point with a bigger 15-inch MacBook Air would make sense, and then of course the 13-inch could reduce to $1099, but that does not seem to be the case because 95Mac tells us that for some reason the 13-inch MacBook Pro does still exist and it should be refreshed with the M3 chip inside, which I'm still confused about. So yeah, the codename is going to be J504 and the design of this is going to be identical to the current version and it's still going to have the Pro branding, and so I'm just confused why Apple still has this. Currently it makes no sense because it's more expensive than a MacBook Air, but it does not have MagSafe, it does not have the new design, it does not have the new webcams and mics, and so when the 15-inch is on the way, why keep this? Replace this with the 15-inch, that makes the most sense, and the touch bar should fully die. But if 95Mac is right, and there is a 13-inch MacBook Pro in the lineup, that does mean the 15-inch should at least be $200 more than the base Pro, so that of course could bring the price to $14.99 or $15.99, which is still decent value, but of course $13.99 for this would be a killer deal. Anyways, let's delve into your questions. So regarding the 12-inch MacBook revival being killed off, no one you know says, that's a shame, but hopefully with the M4, M5 chip in the near future with a better manufacturing process, it does return. A 12-inch would definitely be a very, very nice laptop. It would be cool, fast, powerful, and thin. So yes, I'm very much hoping that's the case. Apple should not let go of the 12-inch MacBook design because, as many have said, it's perfect for Apple Silicon because it's a very small and compact laptop, and the efficiency of Apple Silicon would have been ideal for it. And so hopefully once a recession's over, Apple can of course reconsider reviving this. So at Miami 305 BLK says, I think the 12-inch MacBook was driven by Johnny Ive's vision of laptops, and it seems Apple's now trying to distance themselves from radical design and be more utilitarian. So that's actually a very fair point because we saw this with the new MacBooks. They were thicker than the previous generation and gave us back the ports, but that's the way Apple should be going because the consumers wanted the ports back, and so sticking with the utilitarian design does make sense. However, even if the design as we know it does not return, I'm hoping Apple can bring back the 12-inch form factor because it makes so much sense to have a compact sub $1,000 laptop in the range, and so hopefully we do see a new 12-inch MacBook in the near future, but of course with a MacBook Air inspired design. And Brian agrees with this earlier comment and says, Ives always plays form before function. And yeah, that's definitely the case, and that came as a detriment to the MacBook experience because we had faulty keyboards, we had no ports, and overall I'm happy that Apple's taking a more practical route with the design of their laptops. So at Johnny Hogg says, the greatest thing about a 15-inch Air will be the much better speakers, and a bigger battery, and of course a bigger display. And yes, I'm excited for the battery life with the 15-inch Air because we know how efficient the base M2 chips are, so of course putting that in a 15-inch MacBook with a massive battery inside should give this ridiculous endurance. And I believe the 16-inch right now has 21 hours of battery life with the M2 Pro and the M2 Max. So now imagine a similar sized MacBook with the base M2 chip that could maybe give us 25 hours of battery life. And yeah, I'm also looking forward to the better speakers. The speakers with the 13-inch already are pretty good, but now again with the larger size, the audio quality should be amazing. So yeah, let's see what happens, but tell me in the comments guys, what's your thoughts regarding this report? Anyways, thank you for watching guys, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours, and on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one.